We got a matchup between Bobby Green and Tony Ferguson. Bobby Green is a 4-1 betting favorite, plus 310 for Tony Ferguson. Bobby Green, $9,500 on DK, $23 on FanDuel. Tony Ferguson, $6,700 on DK and $8 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I just don't like the odds. You know, Bobby Green fucks around a little too much for me. And he plays with his food. He taunts. He gets hit. He's in close fights. He tries to test his chin at times. So he's an entertainer, right? He's a very, very skilled athlete, very skilled fighter, great boxing, good counter shots, excellent counter fighter, can wrestle, can grapple, has been knocked out recently. Tony Ferguson has fallen from grace, looked absolutely horrible, was doing well against Michael Chandler, has power up until that crazy knockout. Looked like a shell of himself against Nate Diaz, but he's a volume guy. He throws volume. He goes out there and he throws thudding leg kicks. If I'm a part of Tony Ferguson's camp, I'm saying let's leg kick the crap out of Bobby Green. And, he's such a boxing oriented fighter. Chew up the legs a little bit and start to incorporate your elbows, obviously. But he has to be very careful about getting chin checked because despite the career lack of power for Bobby Green, he's more of a, take you the distance, land some really good shots, but doesn't put you away the best. He has found some finishes against, 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗵𝗁 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗵𝗁. We've seen Bobby Green go out there and put people away. The Jared Gordon one was a little fluky because of the headbutt, but he looks like he's on his way up, and Tony Ferguson is clearly on his way down and out. With all that being said, I just think the price is ridiculous, and I'm going to be getting to both of them. And as far as a punt, who could lose, we have Tony Ferguson sitting there at 6,700. I think he loses a 15-minute decision, but I think that he could actually give himself, give a better account of himself than what most people are anticipating, just because of Bobby Green's knack for finding, close decisions, split decisions, unanimous decisions, messing around, taunting. What that could do is just open the door of opportunity of points for Tony Ferguson. But yeah, it's a price point at 9,500 Bobby Green. Does he score 120? I don't think so. So if you don't think he scores 120 and you find some other fighters out there that you like better, I'm all with it. But do you think he scores 100 in a win? I do. I think that he does score 100 in a win. So I think he's fine. If it's a low scoring slate, you might need him, similar to like other crazy favorites we've been having. It's probably a safe bet that he wins. I just hate the number. And I'll be getting to both of them, but I'll probably get to other 9,000 options a little more.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the one thing about Tony Ferguson, I talked about this earlier this week, is, we never know when a downside of a fighter's career is going to happen. And, you look at that run he went on pre-2020. I mean, it was amazing. And I just don't know. I mean, you talk about a career-defining beatdown against Justin Gaethje. I just, like when he says on Wednesday that he believes he's 5 fights away to getting a UFC title, I'm like, who is in Tony Ferguson's corner that's letting him believe this?
It's weird. So he has his lifelong wrestling coach. I just feel like Tony Ferguson, if you put him a part of a legitimate camp, I think that he could actually find himself again, or he could have done more than he did. I mean, he was on a massive win streak for the longest time. It's just I don't know. It's kind of like, are you surrounded by yes men? Because if people aren't looking out for you and you're not changing shit in your camp and you're getting demolished and you're just, even as a grappler, his jiu-jitsu, it's just been nullified. And as all this talking about his wrestling and his wrestling coach, lifelong wrestling coach, his wrestling has looked poor. I would love to see him test Bobby Green's wrestling. I think Bobby Green will do better, personally. But yeah, I just feel for fighters, especially when I can see that mental health is struggling. With all that being said, I wouldn't mind stacking this fight just to be super weird. In just a handful. If you're doing 150, I'll probably just do a couple, just because if it does go 15 minutes, we could see a ridiculous amount of strikes landed, 200 significant strikes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you go to UFCstats.com, I mean, Tony Ferguson just has not been a takedown guy. He just hasn't. I mean, he hasn't been that guy. And, I mean, look, when I saw the betting odds and then the DraftKings, I was like, oof, man, I'm picking Bobby to win the fight. I go, but to get to that price point, I'd much rather spend $100 less and get to a Miranda Maverick who's going to have a grappling upside versus Bobby Green in a fight that probably is going to go 15 minutes. That's why I do like the more fight time on Bobby Green over on Prize Picks. But yeah, I just don't know if a 9,500 Bobby Green can ultimately be optimal in this spot.